lesson number 32 of Learn Free Music Theory. So today we're going to be talking about some different scale formats. We're going to be talking about tetrachords, whole tone scales, and pentatonic scales. So let's get right into it. Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to look at is the tetrachord. Now the word tetra comes from a Greek word which actually just means four. So it's going to explain what we're actually doing here. Now as you know, like if you play C major, you're going to go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So that's 8 notes, okay? Now, what's 8 divided by 2? 4. Now, basically a tetrachord is a way of breaking up a scale into two sections called the lower tetrachord and the upper tetrachord. Now, those are basically the lower 4 notes or the upper 4 notes. So as you can tell, the lower tetrachord is going to be the first 4 notes, and the upper tetrachord is going to be the top 4 notes of the scale. Okay? Now, what we basically are doing here is, also look here, we've got this pattern, tone, tone, semitone. Okay? This is a major scale, by the way, so a major scale tetrachord. And then again, in the other bracket, it's tone, tone, semitone. And always in between the tetrachord lower and upper, in any scale you have, is always a whole tone in between separating them. Okay? Now, I could go on and show you like the minor and the major, or the natural minor and the melodic minor and all the other different forms and their tones and semitones, but that would be, I don't know, kind of a lot of drawing. It'd take up a lot of time. And you guys already know how to draw those scales, so if you guys want to, what I would suggest doing is draw this out and make yourself a little chart and basically just take upper and lower and then figure out where the tones and semitones are and just line it up all on a sheet of paper. So yeah, you can take majors, natural minors, harmonic minors, melodic minors, and I think that's pretty much it to start off with. And yeah, you can start off with that. Now, what I do want to show you, what is the whole big deal about tetrachords, is there's kind of this thing called the Tetrachord Effect, and I'm going to go into that right now. Okay, so this Tetrachord Effect is what I've drawn out here. Now, as you can see, there's a whole bunch of writing, and it might look a little bit confusing and a little bit messy, but I'm going to explain it here in just a second, so just hold tight. Okay, so the tetrachord effect, what is it? So as we just learned, the tetrachord is when you have the upper and the lower tetrachord. It's two different groups of 4 notes. Okay? Now, as you know before from prior lessons, we did the circle of fifths, remember? And so you know that there's an order to the keys. So if you're going from C major, if you go to the next scale which has 1 sharp, you've got G major, then D major, and so on. And if you go to the left, you have F major, B flat major, and such. Now, what you can actually do with the tetrachord effect is quite interesting. And that's actually what a lot of these things are going to be in level 3, is a lot of interesting things. Now this you can actually use in a practical sense, but first I need to show you what it is. So the tetrachord effect. So this works with a major scale if you go ascending or descending, okay? So you can go up or down, whatever you want to do. And I'll show you both. But okay, so first, now let's just say we're starting in F major and we're going to play a scale and go up, okay? So the first 4 notes of F major are F, F, G, then A, and then B flat. Okay, so that's the first, that's the lower tetrachord. Now the upper tetrachord is C, D, E, F. Okay? Now what other scale has those 4 notes in a tetrachord? C major. Now look, C major's lower tetrachord is also C, D, E, F. And also if you think of it, F, if you're going up in the the key signature, like in the circle of fifths, if you go up a fifth, you're going to get to C, right? Okay, so look. So you go up to your next scale, and the upper tetrachord of F major is the exact same as the lower tetrachord of C major. Huh, interesting. I wonder if that's a pattern. Well, we'll see. Let's keep going. Obviously it is, but... Okay, so now when you get to the upper chord of C major, you have G, A, B, C. Now what other scale has those notes? G major does. Look, G major, the lower tetrachord of G major goes G, A, B, C. There you go. So the lower tetrachord of G major is the same as the upper tetrachord of C major. And look, this can just keep going on. I ran out of space, but you can just keep going up in scale. So the upper tetrachord of G major is D, E, F sharp, and G. What's the first four notes of D major? D major is D, E, F sharp, G, A. Or not A. A is part of the next tetrachord. But yeah, so the lower tetrachord of D major is the upper tetrachord of G major. So what can you do? Like, and this just keeps going way, way up, all the way. You can go all the way up to C sharp major. Okay? Now, what can you do with this, though? What is the practical application? Well, it's actually quite interesting, because what you can do is you can play a scale. Like, you can use this for composing techniques, and it can be a pretty cool effect, because you can kind of trick. It's a very much an audio kind of illusion. So what you can actually do is, say your piece is in F major, right? Or some other thing. You can actually play through, like any other scale, it doesn't really matter what scale it's in, but say you start on, say, C. Now say you want to get up to D major, okay? Or you want to get into another key. You can just start playing through these tetrachords and start modifying it as you go up. And it'll sound really weird, because your ear won't pick up that you're in a new scale in the upper tetrachord of C major, which is also the lower tetrachord of G major. It'll pick it up when you're in the upper tetrachord of G major, though. So you can get into another scale without your ear actually picking it up until like a delayed reaction, once you start noticing that something's different. So you can actually play these really long scales, and then you can end off in another key and then start playing in that key. So it can be quite interesting, the kind of stuff you can do with it. And it also works going down as well. So say you're in C major, okay, and now you're going down. So you go C, B, A, G, so that's your upper tetrachord. Then the lower tetrachord is F, E, D, C, which is also the same as if you're going down in the upper, like if you're going from there. We already pointed that out before. So now you can see this is a different way of explaining it in case this looked confusing to you. So there's your upper and lower for C major, and there's your upper and your lower for F major, and then your upper and your lower for B flat major. And I could have kept going on, but I thought it was kind of irrelevant to keep going. So yeah, you can. So as you go into this, now you can keep playing these notes. So you could play a scale, go C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. Now change it to B flat and go A, B, G, F, E flat, D, C, B flat. Now you're playing in the scale of B flat major if you want to go back through there. And you did that all through a smooth transition. So it's quite weird and very interesting, and it's one of those little tricks you could pull off if you want to pop that into your compositions or whatever. But yeah. And sorry about the fail on the treble clef there. I kind of just did a really quick one there. It's not even, doesn't even look great, but whatever. Okay, so that is the tetrachord effect, and I hope you found that interesting. So we're going to move along now. The next topic we're going to cover here is actually pretty simple. This is all that we're going to really cover with it. It is called a whole tone scale. Now, it's quite simple. Whole tone scales are just a scale of all whole tones until you get to the same key. So luckily, it's actually quite simple, because there's only two whole tone scales that you can possibly have in all of music. You can either start with, if you're looking at a piano, it's actually quite simple. You can either use the two black keys and the white keys below the three black keys, or you can invert it. So you can have the white keys under the two black keys, and then you use the top three black keys. Now, what you end up doing is either you start with no C sharp, or you start with a C sharp, one of the two. You don't actually have to start it on a C to begin with. You can start it on really any of those keys. You're not limited to just starting on a certain key. A whole tone scale is usually is comprised of, I think, 7 tones. As far as I know, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's from one to the next instead of 8, where in a regular major scale, you're going to have 8 notes from C to C or whatever like that. But in this, it's actually just straight up 7 tones. And also, depending on which way you write it, if you're using the C sharp, the D sharp, or the F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, you're going to have to put the diminished thirds in different places, okay? The diminished third is there so that you avoid using like an enharmonic naming, because otherwise you'd have to make this B sharp, and then that would be weird as you go up and down. So generally what you do is you just leave it where, you can write it different ways, but this is one way you can do it, is you can put a diminished third here. So you're skipping the E altogether, because you're at D sharp, and then you go to F. Okay? You can put it in different places, right? Like you could make this F sharp to E flat, C sharp to E flat to F. But that looks a little bit weird with a sharp and a flat. And, generally you want to keep it all the same type, but you don't really have to, per se. I mean, whatever. It's really kind of up to the composer. A lot of rules that we have in music are broken, by composers. Other than the basic standard ones, like where stem direction goes and like if there's a time signature and how the beats all work out and stuff like that. But, a lot of stuff you can mess around with. So there's lots of creativity in music. Just not when you're first starting so much. You have to learn the rules and then you can break them later sometimes. Especially in harmony, I find. But anyway, okay, so yeah, just they start on C or start on C sharp, and you're basically using the 2 inverse things. Now what whole tone scales are good for, like the kind of effect that they have, is sort of a floaty, magical effect. Because there's no semitones anywhere, it doesn't have a pull in any direction. It's just like do 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 do. I can't actually sing a whole tone scale, but it sort of sounds very floaty. So if you try playing that out on the piano, you'll see what it's like. Just try to go from one key, like one octave to another, and don't play any semitones. Just play whole tones every way. Okay? Okay, guys. Now the next thing we're going to look at is the pentatonic scale. Now, the pentatonic scale. Okay, I'll just break down the word first. Pentatonic. So, penta means 5. Tonic, it's a musical term, as we know of. So, actually, in a pentatonic scale, any note in the scale can actually act as the tonic. So, it's actually one of those scales or scales that actually every single note sounds good in it. And you can kind of play around with it, and you're going to sound quite nice. Some of the cultures that have used pentatonic scales are like lots of children's songs and folk songs, and it's being used all throughout, and even way back in Asia. Like Oriental music is very, very based on pentatonic scales. So there's even people, in The Art of War, the book by, what's that guy's name? It has escaped me right now. But the guy who wrote the book, Art of War, he actually talks about how there's only 5 musical notes. And he's actually referring to the pentatonic scale, actually. So, so the pentatonic scale is basically a scale which has 5 notes in it, and any note can act as the tonic. And it's usually based, it had its origins way back in China. And not just China, but the Orient in general. Now also, how you build a pentatonic scale, basically it's comprised of a tone, or like a whole tone, right? So it's 2 tones, then a minor third, then a tone, and then you can use another minor third to get back to what note you originally started on, okay? It's not always the case, but yeah. Like you don't always need to go back to that one if you don't want to, really, because then you have 6. But anyway, like there's 5 primary tones in it. Okay, now how do you build it? Really, really easy way is you can actually take any major scale. So you can take C major, for example, and just omit the 4th note. So just take it out. Just leave it. And there you go, you've got a pentatonic scale. So C, D, E, G, A. Those would be your notes in your pentatonic scale. Conversely, you can start on any note. So you could start on D and you could go D, E, G, A, C. And that could be another starting point. So you can basically work, now we don't have names for all the different modes as far as I know. And so basically you could start on any one of these notes and it can be the mode that you start with. So yeah, basically that's how I build my pentatonic scales when I need to use one, is I just take a major scale or whatever key I want. Like I'll go to a D major scale and then just omit the fourth note, or any key. Like you can just pick whatever key you want to and then just think of what it's like in the major scale and then take out the fourth note and the seventh note, and then there you go. Okay, so that's basically how it works. Also, just in case you're curious, if you play piano, all the black notes, if you only play the black notes, you're actually playing a pentatonic scale. Yeah, because you've got the 2 white notes plus the 3 black notes, and 2 plus 3 is 5. And the way they're laid out is in a pentatonic scale format. So this format that we have here is actually starting from F sharp, so the first of the 3 black keys. Anyway, so yeah, that's a little basics on a pentatonic scale. And yeah. Okay, and the last thing we're going to look at is now the minor pentatonic scale. Now I don't really need to explain this nearly as much because it's closely related to the pentatonic scale, but it does have a couple differences. So the minor pentatonic scale is, again, it's 5 notes, but they're in a different pattern, different order, and they sound different obviously. It's basically a minor third for your first 2 notes, then it's a major, or not a major third, basically just a whole tone, and then another whole tone, and then a minor third, and then another whole tone. Okay? There's no, I mean, you can say it's like a minor scale with like the second note taken out and another one, the second and the fifth. But yeah, I mean, I don't use this one as much. How I actually relate this one over to is another scale which we're going to actually cover in the next lesson. And it's called the blues scale. Now, before, like how I derive minor pentatonic is I just modify the blues scale, because I've memorized blues scales, but not like minor pentatonics the same way. But actually what happened is the minor pentatonic was around before, but then what happened is out of the minor pentatonic came the blues scale. So the blues scale came from the minor pentatonic. And I'll go into that in the next lesson. But so that's the minor pentatonic. It basically has minor third tone, you know, just write out that pattern and just be aware of it. It's a pretty nice sounding scale, but I tend to use the blues scale more often. I'm either going to use a major pentatonic or I'm going to use a blues scale. I don't usually use minor pentatonic so much, but I mean, if you want to go for that, it's totally up to you. If you're a composer, you can do that kind of stuff and do whatever you want to do. I'm just putting this in here so you know that it exists and that you know the formula for it. Cool, huh? Alright, so that's about it. So now let's get on to homework. Homework. No. Alright guys, so for your homework, here's what I want you to do. Alright, so do the Tetrachord Effect, and I want you to do it up and down, okay? And so that's starting, say, just use middle C as a reference point, and try to draw, you could do it in, I don't know how much paper you're going to have. This could be quite interesting, trying to fit this all in. But maybe go up to like A major, or maybe do like the first 5 scales in either direction, and you can do it in letter, do it on the staff paper if you can, and if you can't, try doing it in letter names, okay? So go up and then do another one and start in middle C and then go down. Okay? Also do 5 pentatonic scales, and I want you to pick 5 different keys and then write them out in different, you know, bass clef or treble clef or whatever. And then also whole tone scale, I want you to write both ways. So write the one with using the black keys, like the 3 black keys, and also using the 2 black keys. So using like C, D, E, and then F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and so on. And then flip it up and do the other side. because you're only going to be able to use one set on either one. If you try it out on a piano or an instrument, you'll see that there's only 2 ways to do it, just like I was showing you. And then do 2 minor pentatonic scales. Just pick 2 random keys and write that out, and that should be good. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed the lesson, and yeah, have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, bye!